They said they wanted power.
Oh, awesome.
Zappa, Zakalush, Kalamaskalo.
Welcome to Guru Talks.
Guru? What do they do, like levitate and chill on mountaintops?
Not exactly, but you are in the right place to find out everything you need to know, and it's actually quite simple. I am your host, Florian Boschi, and I will be going extra deep with Guru Bhaneswaranand each and every show. We are covering deep truths about relationships, success in business, world peace, and many other topics. Oh, and of course, enlightenment. Because our guru, well, he is enlightened. Welcome to the 22nd episode of Guru Talks. Today we will speak all about emotions, the state of not being involved with your emotions and the state of being involved with your emotions. Welcome, Guru Bhaneswaranand, to the show.
Thank you so much.
Let's get right into it. I guess the first question, since your expertise is in spirituality, can spiritual enlightenment be defined as the absence of emotions?
Spiritual enlightenment is a state where nothing matters to you. It is not exactly the emotionless state. We feel the emotions, we feel them very deep, but any decision what we make is not dependent on those emotions. So enlightened being can feel emotions and can also be independent of it.
I see. So the emotions are not gone per se, but they have no more effect on you.
Yes, emotions has not gone. You can feel happiness, you can feel sadness, but those happiness and sadness, the happy moment and sad moment does not matter in making any decision, in doing your everyday things, and in your routine work.
Okay. So given the fact that all people in this world are born in a non-enlightened state, and they have to, even if they have been enlightened in a previous life, they are still again born in an unenlightened state and have to then go back on the path of reaching there. So I assume the goal of the spiritual path is to reach a state, if you, at least one definition thereof would be that you reach a state where you're not affected, where you're free from your emotions, even though they are there. So my question is, if that's the case, what relevance do emotions even have for intelligent beings? Are emotions useful?
Emotions are definitely useful. There is nothing what is not useful in this creation. Emotions are also very useful to the human body and to the human brain and human mind. Without that, living and feeling could have not been the same what it is now.
Okay, yet, and please forgive me for saying this, but I've been watching you on and off, speaking to many of your disciples. You have a bunch of disciples that you are trying to move to a state where they really don't care anymore about their emotions. So on the one hand, you say they're useful. On the other hand, you're moving or you're expending large amounts of your time and energy to help people get away from them, I guess.
Not exactly. I think we are trying to mix two things. The state of awakening and the state of enlightenment is not emotionless state. It is the state in which you feel the emotions, but they do not matter to you. And you even feel the emotions of others, and it does not matter to you. It's a balanced state, it's a blissful state in which you can find the solutions of the root of the problems which is bringing these emotions to you without getting involved in it.
Okay. So I guess I need to ask you differently then. So because it seems like that probably 99.999% of the people in the world are involved with their emotions. Yes?
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, they are involved.
So let me ask you different. What relevance does the involvement into their emotions have for intelligent beings? Is that useful?
Yes, I have already said to you that it is useful when you feel love. It's a beautiful feeling. When you feel sadness, it is not a good feeling, but it is required. And every feelings what you have in the human body, in the human mind, is is a beautiful feeling, and we need it. We need to feel it because a normal human beings lives in a situation where opposites matters him. So how can a person feel happiness unless he has not felt the sadness? And therefore both the emotions are equally important for him, to feel the sadness and to feel the happiness.
And to be attached to both of them.
Yes, a normal human being, as you know, is attached, but the ideal situation is that you feel them and not be attached.
Okay. So what would a world be like without emotional involvement?
It would be a happy world. You see, if if you don't get involved with it and still feel it, there would be no traumas, there would be no uh, traumatic life, and the world will definitely become a blissful world, a happy world, and it will live in the happiness, or you can call it super happiness, whatever.
Okay. You know, one way to explain trauma or to define trauma is that a person goes through a moment in their life where the impact on their emotional body is so strong that they are not allowing themselves to feel the emotion anymore in that moment. And then that emotion gets stored away in their body and revisits them again and again and again when they, are being exposed to certain situations. Like, let's say a situation arises that is similar to the situation when the trauma happened. Now these emotions that the person couldn't feel back then at the time will surface and revisit the person. So are you saying that when a person is not attached to their emotions, they will not experience or not be able to experience trauma?
That's what I am saying. If you are not involved with the emotions, they will not get stored in your chakras, in your capacitors of the body, and in the later state, when you feel similar kind of the situation, they will not come with the higher valor, and everything will be all right.
Okay. To look at this from another angle, aren't emotion useful to help a person guide their way?
Yes, I have already said that emotions are very useful in the human life and also in guiding their way, because if you feel sadness, let us say, from this sadness, you will also be able to find out what was the cause of the sadness, and you will try to remove that cause so that in future you will not become sad. If you could have not felt the emotion of sadness at the first stage, then the removal of cause was not possible, and then every time this could have visited us in our life.
Interesting. Aren't you usually a proponent of uh, changing the inside rather than the outside? Because if you feel sadness, let's say in a relationship, you could say, well, by removing the cause, I'm going to remove my relationship and then I'm not sad anymore.
Removing the cause means that anything what you can change, you can always change inside you. outside world is the reflection of what you have inside in you. So when I say that people try to remove their cause after feeling the sadness, they try always to remove it from inside and not from outside. And yes, I go to the extent of saying that if something is traumatizing you and you know the cause, there is no harm removing it even outside.
I see. So what you're saying is, meaning it's you say both is okay, but what you're saying is if you want to remove the cause from the inside, you would basically have to change your perception on how you look at the situation. Yes.
No, anything, like even if you want to remove the cause from outside, you have to make that decision first inside you, and then you can implement outside of you. To implement, it is not important how you implement your decision, but unless you have decided inside of you that I need to remove it, you cannot even take that decision of implementation of outside of you too.
I see. I see. But isn't emotion closely tied to our upbringing, to our perception, to our conditioning, to what we have learned?
Everything what we have in our body and mind is has to do with upbringing, and so are the emotions. Our parents, knowingly and unknowingly, our society, knowingly or unknowingly, our teachers, our surroundings, our gurus, they teach us, and that is how we feel them.
You know, it's so interesting because you always, when you look at things from two sides, on the one hand, you can say emotions are guiding our way, right? But if our emotions are closely tied to our upbringing, to what we have learned, you could just as well say that our emotions are misguiding us because they don't give us real freedom. They are what they are. And if we are sad, for example, and we try to listen to them, and then we try to remove the sadness, we haven't really chosen. We have just reacted to something that came about within us without our doing, really.
Emotions are guiding us and also misguiding us. Guidance and misguidance are the same thing. Emotions are not only sadness, emotions are love, which we enjoy a lot. Emotions are happiness, which also we enjoy a lot. So it's not that emotions are only negative emotions. When we talk of emotions, they are negative as well as positive. And we have more of the positive emotions than negative emotions. And if not that, at least we have half half. So it's not that emotions only misguides us, they guides us also. They guides us to a nice place, to a nice partner, to a nice uh, surroundings. When when you meet your friend and feel the state of happiness, it's guiding you, it's not misguiding you. So saying that emotions misguides us is not right. Emotions guides us and sometimes misguides us, and this misguidance we can correct by going to the root cause of that emotion.
So, in the beginning, you were saying something interesting that guidance and misguidance is really the same thing, right? So, on the highest level,
Not highest level, at any level, for you, for her, for me, for everybody, the emotions we learn from them, we, they guide us, they guide us to a better living, they guide us to a state of happiness, and they guide us to higher living too. They guide us, and if when you go towards the negative side of the guidance, it becomes misguidance also. So they do both the things. Guidance and misguidance is the same line. It goes together, not not one side. And both the things, if you have got capacity to experience them, you will experience both of them. If you have got capacity to experience sadness, you will automatically experience happiness. If you have got capacity to experience hate, you will automatically experience love also. Love is the beautiful thing for the human being, hate is not. So you have both, and therefore you can slowly reduce the sadness side of it by taking some right decision and enjoy and keep enjoying your happiness.
Okay, okay. If this seems I understood this correctly.
I'm not-
No, let me just see if I understood this correctly, because, well, it seems like you have an emotion, you listen to it, then you bear the consequences of the emotion. If the consequences are positive, you have been guided. If the consequences are negative, you call it misguided, I would assume. But in reality, it's just you listening to your emotions.
That is what I am saying.
Yes.
That is what I am saying. Guidance and misguidance are something separate. They are two opposite things. If they happens, they happens together. If they don't happen, they don't happen at all. But to your emotions, you are listening. That listening can take you to the causes of the problems, and inside of you can decide to remove those causes and become happy. Everything what you do is the inner work. Anything what you want to do, like driving a car. You drive a car because from inside you have decided to drive a car. Unless that inside work has been done, nothing, absolutely nothing exists outside of you. What you have inside, the same thing can be implemented in the outside world with your body, with your hands, with your legs, with your eyes, with your ears, with your nose, and everything. But if you have not made any decision inside, then you cannot do anything.
So how does a person who has reached a state of enlightenment, meaning a state where they don't have to listen to their emotions, where they're not attached to their emotions, how do they make their decisions? Is it different, or do they still listen to their emotions?
Number one, maybe at the enlightened state, you don't need to make a lot of decisions for yourself. One. And number two, you can make decisions of removing something, removing the root cause without getting involved to it.
So it's different.
It is definitely different. It is different for non-enlightened beings and for enlightened beings.
So because then you don't have a guidance system of emotions anymore. You also don't have the misguidance system of emotions anymore.
Right. Because you feel them and you remain unaffected by those feelings.
Okay, so here's my questions. When you feel your emotions, do you sometimes think how silly those emotions are? They are not really correct according to how I want to act.
No, not silly. We use a word, and that is called illusion. That how elusive these emotions are. They are not real, but they make lot of impact on our life.
So you feel all these things inside of you.
I think yes, and I feel them very nicely. I feel love. When you love me, I feel. And when you want to hate me, I think I feel. So please be careful that I feel your love and I feel your hate. But yes, when you hate me, I don't say anything to you. And when you love me, I do not say anything to you. And I remain in the state of zero, not being affected by your love or by hate. There had been people who comes, maybe shouts at me and goes, and I remain the same. But that does not mean that I have not listened to the shouting of her. The only thing is that shouting of her has not made me sad. And that is what the state of enlightenment you are talking about.
Okay. Now there is another thing, right, which is called bliss, and you've talked about this before, and you have said before that bliss is not an emotion. Can you explain why this is?
Look, emotions again are like a straight line: negative emotions, positive emotions, sadness, happiness. Bliss is a state on the same scale, and it is a point at zero. So it does not matter whether sadness is coming to you or happiness is coming to you, you always remain the same. Does that answer your question or not?
It does. I'm not sure if I guess we can't understand it if we haven't felt it, I assume.
So you have to ask maybe differently and I answer it differently.
Does bliss feel like something? Because the verb that we use to describe an emotion is feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So does bliss also feel like something, or it just is something? Or how does that work?
It is, you see, when we talk about the bliss, we say it is the state of being and not the state of happening. And therefore, it doesn't feel like anything. There had been people who calls or tries to tells it the state of super happiness. But that's not true. It's the state of non-involvement. And non-involvement cannot be a happy state. Non-involvement cannot be a sad state. It is the state of being, that you try to experience anything and everything as it is. And as like it's being said, that accept the person and the situation as it is and remain in it. And if you are able to do that, that is called the state of bliss. It has got nothing to do with the happiness and sadness. It has got nothing to do with profit and loss. It has got nothing to do with the oppositions.
Okay. Can you explain how you say, okay, you say bliss is the state of being versus probably, I assume, that emotions that we feel are more related to a state of doing, right?
Yes, you see, how do we feel emotions? By what act of ours?
By no act. I feel like they just come up and here they are and suddenly I'm sad or I'm happy.
No, I'm sorry. Then maybe you are not feeling the emotions. Unless we do something, unless I touch you, how can I feel love? Unless I look into your eyes, how can I feel romantic love? Unless you come and shout at me, how can I be sad? All these acts are not the acts of being, they are the acts of doing. You cannot feel any emotions without being in the state of doing.
Okay.
And the moment this state of doing comes to the state of being, you will not get involved with the emotions. Even when you hear them, you feel them, but you will not get involved. For example, An enlightened being, maybe somebody comes and curses him, abuses him. He laughs, he smiles. Somebody comes and praises him. He again smiles. And that is the state of being. And state of any emotion you cannot observe unless you are in the act of doing.
Okay, so it's probably also include thinking about something, right? So, for example, I could think, yes.
Thinking is also doing. When we are thinking, look, when you will be thinking, I'll ask you a question. What are you doing? And you say very nicely and politely, I'm thinking. So how can thinking be not the state of doing? Thinking is also the state of doing.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how do you explain that, that phenomenon of depression, which is kind of like an ongoing state of sadness that people have? Somebody wakes up in the morning and immediately the first thing that happens is they're sad, so much so that sometimes they can't even get out of bed. Has it been a cumulative set of states of doing that are just so ingrained now, or what's going on there?
See, sadness is the beautiful emotion and very dangerous, because when you become sad, for some time you start liking it. Whenever two friends meet, usually they do not talk of their happy moments. They talk of their sad moments, they cry together, and they like to cry together. There are more incidences that friends like to cry together than friends like to laugh together. I'm sorry to say it, but it is the fact, and therefore, when a person goes in the spiral of sadness, he get a tendency sometimes not to come out of it. And with our broken system, where we do not have families, where we do not have big families, where we do not have our parents to support us, where we do not have our elders, we have no gurus, and he has nobody other than himself for a guidance. And therefore, to his friends, he don't want to talk about, because he thinks that what people will think. I'm so weak, I'm so this, and therefore he doesn't talk to his friends, he doesn't have anybody to go to, and then he takes in his heart completely, he's not able to talk about it, and keeps feeling it for infinite time. We need a system. Somebody asked me when I was doing a business seminar, why does business leaders need to come to you? For what benefit? I said, benefit is always not important. What is more important, that an employee goes to the boss and says, this cannot be done. And then he doesn't have a place to go somewhere and tell his problem. So he must have a guide, a friend, a professional, somebody or a guru, where he can go and say, Guruji, I am not able to do this, so that his stress level goes down. These sad people, what you are talking about, has got a very high stress level, and they are not able to talk to it to anybody. The moment they talk, maybe they talk to their life partner, maybe they talk to their parents, moment they talk for the first time, they start feeling the relief immediately. So the solution for this problem, if you want, you have to have somebody senior of you to whom you can go and open your heart and talk what you feel and why the sadness has come to you. Maybe he doesn't or he is not able to give you the advice, but still you must go and talk so that it starts reducing. And the moment you talk, if you want to find out the solution of any problem, talk to several people. Somebody will definitely have the solution and you will be helped.
It's interesting because you talked about it this morning. I overheard you speaking to somebody, and you were saying that trauma, the solution for trauma is love. So my question is, does talking to somebody imply that you speak to somebody who cares for you, who loves you, or is that irrelevant?
Love is the solution for most of the problem of this earth. Love is the solution for most of the problem on this earth. I will not be able to talk to somebody about my sadness, about what is happening inside me, unless I have some love for that person, some admiration for that person. And I tell you, I don't want to praise about it, but I tell you, I have seen people in traumatized state. They call me and I do not do anything to them. They call, they cry, they weep, and then I tell them, don't worry, I'm there with you. And immediately I see a smile on their face. It's not magic, but it acts like a magic. When somebody comes to you with an expectations, you just tell him, I am there for you. And as a civilized society, we must say to each other that at your distress state, at the state of your stressful days, I am there with you, for you, so don't worry. And that solves most of the problem. But please remember that you will not be able to say this to the person to whom you hate. You will be able to say this to the person only to whom you love. If somebody is constantly facing the state of sadness, what should they do? The answer is they should go to their elders, they should go to somebody to whom they have some trust and talk to. See, maybe by talking solution is not found, but by talking itself, your stress level starts reducing.
Okay. Do you feel like that this whole profession of psychotherapy is taking the place in modern society in many ways for this dynamic that you're describing? People go and they speak to their therapists every week for an hour. Does this work?
Ideally speaking, it doesn't. Because the natural love what we have talked about, we do not have in our psychotherapist. We have that in our parent. We have that in our gurus. We have that in our brothers. We have that in our friends. So what we talk to these people where I feel my love will be more beneficial than the psychotherapist doctors. Maybe they are doing a good thing, but I think more helpful will be the mother and not the psychotherapist. The mother is also an automatically psychotherapist. And if your mother says, don't worry son, I'll take care of you and I will also be able to take care of your problem, this problem in particular, there is a tendency that you will smile immediately.
Okay. Just from my own experience as not a psychotherapist, but a Chinese medical therapist, I have had many patients that came to me week by week by week, and usually those problems don't, when they're ingrained, when people really have like they're fighting with some kind of a depressive disorder, these situations don't really change so quickly. So they will come, and obviously I wasn't the right partner to talk to them because, as you said, I didn't feel the love for them that their own mother or father would feel. But still, they come every week, and often many months, if not years, they will again and again roll out the exactly same problems. It's like you pressing the repeat button. And is this something, when that happens within a family, is that not destructive for the family if somebody talks like twice a day to their parent about the same issue for 2-3 years? And what if the mother cannot solve the problem? That's also a very valid concern here.
Yeah. Number one, when they come to you, they come with an expectation that something will change. It usually does not change because the love needed for this change to happen was not there. So he comes back again expecting that something will change, and he starts saying the same thing again and again and again and again. But when he goes to his mother, the quality required for the change, which is love, is present there. And when mother says, "Don't worry, son, I'll take care," he has trust in it, and things starts changing faster than when they come to you and talk about it. And then they don't have to repeat it again and again and again, which they are repeating with you. And I think if for any reason somebody is repeating it again and again and again to a guru, to a mother, to somebody, we as elder person of this person should have patience to listen to her, to listen to him, so that it goes away from this person and he doesn't have to talk about it anymore. The patience in the society is reducing. I'm extremely sorry to say it. Whereas the real society, if you want to have, you need to enhance the patience. Patience in parents, patience in gurus, patience in teachers, in surroundings, in elderly persons, if they have it. And my request to these elderly people is that if your child, if your friend, and somebody from the public comes to you with the expectation of talking, talk to him. Listen to him. Try to find the solutions. We deserve a better society than we are today.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I would really like to look at the other side of this coin as well, which is, the state of being after you have reached enlightenment, or a state of non-attachment to your emotions. And I want to speak about this particularly because I often see, when you explain to people what enlightenment is, that they get somewhat disturbed at that particular moment when you mention non-attachment of emotions, right? And I think the reason why that is, or at least that's how I explain it, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is that people think that something horrendous happens, almost like a sociopathic behavior that can happen, right? So how do we define a sociopath? A sociopath is somebody who can hurt somebody else without feeling the pain of it, right? Or is somebody who can commit a crime without feeling any shame or feeling any regard for the opposite or for the well-being of the people around them, and so on and so on. Now, you explained to me before that this is different with enlightenment, that there is a difference between being not attached to emotions and the behavior that the sociopath is exhibiting. Can you elaborate on this?
Uh, if and when you are not attached to your emotions, you are like God. Okay, when you are not attached to your fears, you are in the best balanced. The other thing, what you talk about the sociopath, they try to train themselves to be in the fearless state. Okay, how? By doing great work, or by doing some work by which their fear goes away. So the negative of emotion, negative of enlightenment, if you want to say, it is actually not negative of enlightenment, you can say that it is a sociopath. But enlightenment, it is a state in which your emotions are present with you, you experience them, but you do not get involved with them. And it's a very, very positive state, and it is never harmful to the society. When I was studying, when I was a student, I read something. There are 3 types of education. One is the good education. Second is bad education. And third is confused education. The best thing is to have a good education and live in the society nicely. That is what the enlightenment state is. And Kusiksha, which is confused education, people try in that to win over. And this winning over is very dangerous. That is how people become criminal. I have killed one person today. I was fearing when I was killing. Next time I should kill 2 so that I will not fear. That is very bad for the society. We must teach our children, we must teach ourselves, we must, all of us, learn something which goes in these positive directions to make this earth a better society to live.
Okay, can you elaborate on the confused education? So it's kind of like forcing yourself to create a specific emotional state, or how does this work?
Yeah, you are trying to create an emotional less state. You are trying to create an emotion less state, and it never becomes emotionless state. So what you try to do, whatever I have achieved this time, I should achieve something bigger than this. Next time I should achieve something bigger than this. But that is not the solution. That is enhancing the problems, and it doesn't give you any solution.
So whenever somebody pushes themselves to more, to more gain, to more output, to more achievement, it is that?
Yes, when you push a lot, an element of ego comes in you, and when the moment element of ego comes in you, I think it is not useful anymore.
Okay. Is it denial of emotions that happens then?
Yeah, you can call it the denial of emotions. And when denial of emotions takes place, you cannot go into the positive direction.
So what happens when you deny emotions? You try to be a certain way. You try to behave a certain way. You're trying to achieve a certain way, thereby ignoring or denying what you feel in the process. You keep going with it until a certain point where the whole, this whole scenario or this whole illusion bursts into pieces, and then you start going into the other direction. Or what happens there?
Yeah, you are right. I think if you learn criminology, this is how it happens, and you try to be tough, and this toughness also does not help. most of the soldiers of the world who fought big wars, when they come back home, they have cried. Most of the criminals who has robbed, who has killed, at the end of the day, when they go home, they sit down and are never in peace. So, whatever tough thing you are able to make yourself, I think it doesn't help. What helps is living naturally. And which is very easy to do. The unfortunate thing of this earth is that we don't want to live simple. We want to live complicated. And if you want to live complicated, complications keeps coming to you again and again. The simple advice is to be simple, be with the nature, go to the trees, go in the forest, feel them, feel the greenery of the leaves. They bring you the happiness. They bring you the bliss. And they bring you a kind of the calm you must have never experienced. That is what the life we want for our children. That is what the life we want for ourselves. And that is what the life should be desirable, and not training toughness, not training all those things.
So, just to make sure I understand this correctly, so for a normal person who is not on a spiritual path, you recommend for them to listen to their emotions and use them as a guidance tool. Never to deny them, and if you are on a spiritual path, remove your attachment to them, but do not deny them, and there is a difference.
Yeah, that is what I am saying. Always listen to your inner self, including your emotions. Listen to your inner self. What your inner self is saying, listen to it very carefully and go ahead.
What if you have a confusing emotional message that comes from the inside? There is a part in you that says A, and there is a part in you that says B, and it's the opposite. I've experienced this before many times. I think many people do.
Yeah, it happens. It happens in everybody, not many. It happens with everybody. And you know what is right message. Sometimes we tend to go to the wrong message, what is coming from inside of us, but we know what message of inside is right for us. Follow it, and you will be on the right path.
Okay, how do you distinguish between what is right and what is the wrong message?
Close your eyes. Answers is in you always. Everybody understands what is right and what is not. After knowing this also, we tend to follow the wrong path. That is unfortunate, but every one of us, when a thought pattern comes inside us, we know whether it is right or not right.
Okay. Now just to speak a little bit more about this elusive state of non-attachment to emotions. It's such an interesting state. I have a few questions towards that, right? So a person who is not attached to their emotions, meaning that person is enlightened, right? Let's create a hypothetical scenario in which somebody is free. That doesn't have to be hypothetical, you are. But would a person without emotional attachment still want to raise children? Would they still want children? Do they still like art and music? Because those are all things that have a lot to do with a deep love, with emotions, with you know what I mean?
Yes. We like these everything without getting involved. I think you have made a very nice statement that let us not assume you are one, then you also know my life. I have children. I love them.
Yeah, but you had children before you were enlightened.
But I still love them.
Yes.
I do not say that I don't love you anymore because I'm enlightened. You come to me, others comes to me, I love them. Without being judgmental, without being involved, I feel all these emotions as a normal human being, as you feel, as somebody else feels. But yes, the little difference is that when something comes, I do not get afraid. I know God has given this to us, He will also give us the solution. And and if you know this, solutions are very close to you always.
Okay. You know, at this point, I would just like to offer an example, something that happened. By now, it's been a long time ago. It was one of the first times I was in India. It was the first time I was in India. It was the first time I met your son, Aditya. And we were both in your office. And back then, you were explaining to us about love. And you were saying, you know, the difference when you're enlightened is I don't love anybody more than any other person. This is my son Aditya. I love Aditya. Here are you. I love you. There is no difference for me. I guess this is something very worth mentioning in the connection of what we're talking about. So you don't make a difference in your love, I assume.
Yes, I don't make a difference in my love, and this love after the enlightenment becomes the state of being. That also I keep saying, I think that you have not mentioned here. It becomes a state of being, not able to distinguish between people. My love is for everyone who is close to me, who is sitting with me, equally distributed, whether they are related to me by blood or not. It doesn't distinguish that this disciple of mine is good or this is bad. It is equally available to all. It all depends how much who want to take. If my son want to take little less, he will get little less. If you want to take little more, you will get little more. And vice versa. Here the love becomes a state of being, which we have to understand. It radiates. I don't love you. The love radiates from me. If you are in that vicinity, you will feel it always. If my son is in that vicinity, he will feel it always. If my wife is in that vicinity, she will feel it always. And whoever is in this area, they will feel it, and it is without being judgmental. That you are this, so I don't love you. You are this, so I don't love you. I love everyone equally, and it is radiating from me. Let us experience it without being judgmental.
Okay. You know, just to further carve out the difference between enlightenment and sociopathy, you could, I guess, say that the sociopath is the epitome of egotistical behavior and thought patterns.
Yes.
Now, again, there were people who were afraid when you explained enlightenment to them that this is something that would happen. Lack of empathy, being totally egotistical, not thinking about others, not being able to feel other people's pain. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on those aspects of it.
I think I feel your pain more than yourself. So, an enlightened person is automatically an empath. Okay, he feels. It's not that he doesn't feel. He doesn't get involved with that feeling. That is, see, there are two different things. You feel it and you don't get involved, then your guidance will be automatically good. To the most professional people like doctors, they are being taught not to get involved with their patients so that they be able to guide them accurately and properly. So if you are not involved, that is what things is here. And in everything you do right brings the state of ego in it. Okay. And when you are not involved, this ego does not come in. When this ego does not come in, you don't distinguish, you don't judge. You just give whatever somebody deserves.
Yeah, and you don't get drained when you get involved because you can actually get involved with the person because their emotions don't affect you.
Yes.
Right.
So I don't get, their emotions does not affect us, but we are still able to feel them.
Yes. So you're able to help better, I assume, when you're not involved. Like let's say
that
you
would
say
be-
you feel my pain more than I feel it
That,
myself.
that would
So-
again be an ego if I say that I'll be able to, everything universe is doing, everything source is doing. It is source which has made me capable of helping somebody, and person is being helped through this body, but it is always being helped by the source. It is always being helped by the God.
Okay. So you don't even have an intention to help people? Like you just let it be or
I have an intention, somebody comes to me, I always try to do whatever I can and whatever I have in my capacity, whatever the God has provided me, the wisdom, knowledge, wealth, anything, by whatever I can help them, I try and help them.
okay. You know, there's an interesting, I guess, area of science that has been coming up in recent years, and that's the area of artificial intelligence. And there is an entire, I guess, arena within artificial intelligence science that deals with emotions of artificial intelligence. And there are some scientists that say that an intelligent being is not even possible without having emotions, right? So now when I think about this, to have an artificial intelligence that is sitting at the button of, let's say, firing nuclear bombs, I would personally think that it would be my preference to not have an artificial intelligence with emotions. So,
Yeah, you see, uh, emotions are the greatest boon to the human being. They are greatest blessings. I think I have got an opinion that artificial intelligence, what we create, cannot attain that state, and therefore you will always need humans to control the machines. Uh, Emotionless state, actually, what is intelligence? Intelligence is something in the human. There are many types of intelligence. You can call it the intelligence of a machine, intelligence of the dog, but in human, intelligence means the capacity to feel the emotions of self and of others. If you do not feel any emotions, I think whatever you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 200,000 billion, trillion, zillion, billion, whatever you can count, it is just useless. If a person sitting in front of me is sad and I am not able to feel it and I am not able to help her, him, I think that intelligence is useless. We must now talk about the human intelligence, and human intelligence should be with the emotions.
okay. So let's create a scenario. What if all people in this world had reached enlightenment, meaning they had reached the state of not being involved in their emotions? How would the world look like?
Perfect.
Please elaborate a little bit.
I think perfection does not need an elaboration. Perfect is perfect, but yes,
I mean, would people still go to work?
they will. All enlightened people, they do everything without being involved. And when you are not involved, you will be a better person for your country, for your nation, for the society, for the earth, for environment, for everything. And that is what the state of perfection is. I have answered the question in just one sentence, that world will become perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but before I met you, you have already helped 4 people, at least that's what you told me. You've helped 4 people or 5 people to reach enlightenment. They have reached. And one time we spoke about it, and you told me that I think 2 or 3 of them are sitting in a cave in the Himalayas, not wanting to be bothered by humanity around them, right? Would half of the world sit in a cave, somewhere on the ground?
Not really. Not really. See, when most of them, you attract the kind of energy what you have. And you feel comfortable with the kind of energy other person has like you. So, you have taken a very nice question that if everybody gets enlightened, then there is no need to go anywhere. Whatever they are feeling in Himalayas, they will feel with you, they will feel with her, they will feel with everybody.
I see. So they're going to Himalayas because they don't want to be bothered by non-enlightened people, basically.
You can say so. You can say so, or you can say that I'm not fitting, or they are not fitting with the kind of behavior what a normal person has got, and therefore they try to find a cave to live there. And it's not necessary that you have to live in a cave. You can live anywhere and remain in the state of bliss. But if everybody is in the state of bliss, then why will you go anywhere? You will remain here in this perfect world.
Well, I guess this is a perfect place to end.
Yeah. Thank you so much for calling me, and thank you so much. You have very nice questions, and I, from the core of my heart, love you so much.
Thank you so much, and we'll see each other again next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Guru Talks. Share this episode with anyone who wants to be enlightened by Guru Bhaneswaranand, and don't forget to click subscribe.